So a quick 1 minute go over of a motorcycle here. This is a vintage Yamaha 2-stroke dirt bike, although maybe enduro technically. But a few things you want to look is going to be consistent. First thing, your fuel. Gas tank here is an obvious one. Then you've got your petcock here set in the off position. Is this horizontal? Reserve is up, on is down. The difference between these two is the reserve is like the very last bottom of the tank. On stops at this level, so you have a little bit of fuel left in your tank when you're on reserve. So if you leave it on, you run out of gas, you can flip to reserve and go a few more miles before you're totally out of fuel. So that's why they've got these things here. Off is here. You want to make sure that this is off if you start inspecting a bunch of stuff. This is the carburetor. So the fuel flows in to the carburetor and then mixes with air. And then that mixture flows into the cylinder. Once in the cylinder, the piston moves up. A spark comes from the spark plug, which is this piece here. Ignites it, forces the piston back down. That generates power. The clutch and transmission are inside the bottom end here. And then you can see on the other side, the clutch side, power is generated, passed through the sprocket, through the chain, turns the wheel. All right, so when you're trying to get your bike started and it's not starting and it's sat for a while, usually you got to take the carburetor out. I mean, almost always you should take the carburetor out and clean it. There's a few tiny little jets. You can find other videos that show how to get in through that. But carburetor here has got to come off. Like I was mentioning before, make sure the fuel's off before you disconnect the fuel line. You might have gas everywhere if there's a little bit of gas in there. And then you'll know when it's dirty because you'll see a bunch of residue. Second thing that you need once you've figured out what's going on with the fuel here is you need to make sure that the air cleaner is clean. And the way to find the air cleaner is off the back of the carburetor. This would be the front that goes into the cylinder. Off the back, through this boot is where it connects into the air cleaner. This is pretty standard. So on this bike and most bikes, it's hidden behind a couple plastics. So you actually have to take these plastics off in order to find it. Now, pretty much this T-handle with a couple of different ends here, including this Phillips end, is a great tool to have because most of the sizes that you'll have on the bike are covered by this thing. So mine here is pretty easy. The older the bikes, the easier they are to work on. Obviously, vintage bikes are fun and easy to work on, but they need a lot more work. So inside this box, you could see if I took off these extra screws here, I could remove this piece. There's the air cleaner. There's no mouse nest in there. Really important that you make sure there's no mouse nest because when you go to start it, it'll suck in all the mouse leftovers, droppings, food pieces, get in the carburetor, clog the carburetor, maybe get sucked into the cylinder, score your cylinder. Then the machine's not gonna run right, damage it permanently. So fuel, carburetor, super important. Air, you got to make sure the air cleaner is cleaned. If there's no air cleaner on here at all, it may suck in too much air, which also is not good. You want to make sure that these things suck in the right amount of air, mixed with the right amount of fuel. And then when you add spark, which comes from the spark plug here, that's what gets your motorcycle to run. Now to start it, you've got a kick start lever. And hopefully that's enough to get you going if you've got those three pieces. Motorcycles that sit a long time, first place to look, carburetor, but definitely make sure that you check the air cleaner also. And a couple other things maybe to keep in mind. It's good to know if your brakes work. Front brake is on this side, back brake is down here. This could help you in case the motorcycle starts to move around. grab the brake, especially the front brake has the most stopping power. The clutch is on the left side. You want to make sure that it springs back into place. You can see the mechanism operating down here at the end of the cable. And here's the gear select lever. You definitely want to make sure that you've got this set to neutral. So all the way down would be first, the first kind of half up, now you're in neutral. That way when you start the bike, it doesn't lurch on you, start driving as soon as you get it going, or it'll just die automatically because it doesn't have enough power to keep the wheel going and keep the engine running. Something else that might happen, but is less common, maybe your silencer here or the exhaust pipe is clogged. And if it's clogged and it can't breathe, the motor won't run either. But that's pretty much the 2-minute breakdown. So check that out. Let me know if you got any questions other than that, or what specifically you're looking at. And yeah, we can go from there.